Hello and welcome to the pilot episode of our brand new podcast, Budz. This is a show where a bunch of friends get together and talk about our individual and shared life experiences and share some useful information along the way to the viewers and listeners in a fun way. I'm Dishan, and let me introduce my co hosts Abhijit, Harshal, Ranga, Mihit, Tarun, and Kaustabh. Today's episode is How I Met Your Uncles. This group of friends came into existence during our time together as graduate students at Purdue University. For those of you who do not know, Purdue is a public university in the state of Indiana and is one of the top tier universities in the STEM fields. Since this is a pilot episode, we will each introduce ourselves, share what made us decide to go to the grad school, why we chose Purdue, and talk about how we met each other. So, guys, why don't we go in the chronological order of us starting at Purdue? Let's begin with Abhijit.
Hi, viewers. My name's Abhijit. I've basically been born and brought up in Mumbai, did my undergrad and master's in Mumbai before I decided that research was something that I wanted to be involved in as a career path, which is why I decided to continue with a PhD. And Purdue was an obvious option because of its brilliance in the field of engineering. Joined Purdue as a chemical engineering graduate in 2015, fall of 2015. Spent about 6 years there, and I'm now part of a chemical industry, and I've been with them for about 3.5 years.
Great. Thanks, Abhijit. Now let's hear from Harshal.
Yeah, so guys, my name is Harshal, and I've been born and brought up in Mumbai as well. And I studied my undergrad in the University of Mumbai in the Waze College in Mulund. And then I completed my master's in the chemistry department from the Institute of Chemical Technology, Mumbai. And then I just had an inclination towards research, just like Abhijit mentioned, and I thought I wanted to get into the field of research and be a scientist. And I started looking at universities abroad because I thought they gave a much better facilities and much better resources to pursue the most complicated of the projects that you could think of. And so I'm not as much of a well planned person as most people, so I chose Purdue because that's the best university I could get into. That's my reasoning. But besides that, yeah, I joined with Abhijit in 2015. I completed my PhD in 6 years, and after that I've recently moved to Connecticut, and I've been working in a pharma company as a scientist. So yeah, that's from my
Nice.
side.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Harshal. Next up, we have Tarun.
Hello. I'm from Hyderabad and I did my undergrad in chemical engineering from Osmania University. After my undergrad, I decided to work for a cement company in India. 1 year after that, I decided to move to the US because I looked at the work culture and I did not see, uh, the probability of great growth there. So I moved to US and I joined Purdue for my engineering management program. Finished my engineering management in 2016, and then I worked for a pharma company for about 7 months before I moved back to Purdue to pursue my PhD. The reason I moved back to Purdue was I saw the growth opportunities that come with a higher degree beyond masters and the inclination towards doing something new and expanding the field that I'm in. And right now I work as a scientist for a pharma company in Connecticut as well.
Thanks, Tarun. Next up, we have Ranga.
Yeah. Hi, viewers. I'm Ranga. So I actually come from Rajahmundry in Andhra Pradesh, which is in southeast part of India. So I'm on the coast of Godavari. So I did all my schooling in Andhra Pradesh, and then I went to bachelor's for chemical engineering in Mumbai at ICT, as most of the guys on this podcast are. From there, I really thought that research was a passion for me. I really liked going into depths of any subject. So that sparked the interest in doing a PhD, and I chose Purdue for chemical engineering, which had diverse subject areas. So I was not really sure which subject area I want to explore. So I chose Purdue Chemical Engineering Department. And from there, that sort of sparked also the interest of travel for me. So I traveled a lot in US there. And then I got a nice opportunity later in Europe. So currently I'm in Spain working as a postdoc. I'm mostly working in modeling, and one of my top interests is traveling as well.
All right. Next up, let me introduce myself. So I grew up in the beautiful city of Gandhinagar in Gujarat. I went to college in Ahmedabad, followed by masters in Institute of Chemical Technology in Mumbai. I worked for a couple of years in a pharma company in Hyderabad. While I was working, I developed more interest into the field of research and trying to know more about how effective medicines are developed. And that fueled my passion to do a PhD. And that's the reason I joined Purdue in 2017. And that is where I met these wonderful people. So next up, I'll ask Mihit to introduce himself.
Hey everyone, I'm Mihit and I am from Mumbai. So my story is slightly different. So after finishing my chemical engineering back in Mumbai, I was not sure exactly whether I wanted to research at that time. And with the flow that was during my time, I decided to do MBA. So I kept on giving the entrance test for MBA exams like CAT and SNAP. I kept on giving for, I think I gave it for 3 years. And in those 3 years, I was simultaneously working for a pharma company as a process engineer. And interestingly, in those 2 years, I felt connected more to like continue doing research further. And that's when I spoke to a couple of professors back at my alma mater, and they really motivated me further that I can do PhD in US. So very interesting thing that happened to me was I got admission from one of the good B school in India, and at that within a couple of months I got offer from Purdue also, and I was in a pickle like what to do. And since my motivation was more towards doing research in those 2 years, so I ended up giving up the offer for the B school in India and decided to join these beautiful people over here at Purdue. So I came to Purdue in 2017 and I did my PhD in the energy sector. And after that, I came to the Bay Area in California. And currently, I'm working in a semiconductor industry. And yeah, that's from my side.
Great. Thanks, Mihit. Next up, we have Kaustabh, the youngest member in the group as of now.
Hi everyone. To tell you a little bit about myself, I was born and raised in Mumbai. I also did my undergrad from the Institute of Chemical Technology. As you might all have known by now, a lot of us are from that college. And during my undergrad, I did a lot of internships through which I came to understand that I really did like research. And post my bachelor's, I applied to a lot of universities in US. I chose Purdue, uh, came here in 2017 with Mihit. He was the first one from this set of people that I met. And that's when we all kind of met together during our days at Purdue. My research was in cancer nanomedicine, and right now I'm working for a pharma company in Connecticut. And yeah, that's all from my side.
I remember meeting you for the first time
In the
directly
airport.
in the air
In the airport.
in the plane, not even in the airport.
I think we met in the
Directly,
airport.
you were seated on the seat, in the window seat, and then I had gotten a window seat which was behind you,
Behind me, yeah.
and that was, I think, the first interaction I had with him.
रिफ्लेक्शन से
Oh,
पहली
so
बार एक दूसरे को देखा है
पहली बार.
we met at Mumbai airport, yeah?
सीट एडजस्ट करते वक्त
And at that time, like it was the first flight, right? So we thought that both of us want a window seat, and
Mhm.
so let's
I
take a
remember that.
window seat. like take seats which were like front and back, and
I think
then
Mihit was suggesting like we take like one of the
next to
window
it.
and the middle seat.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? I'm landing in America for the first time. I want to see the airport when I land.
बाहर देखना है विंडो के बाहर.
फिर
5 मिनट
बादल
देखने
देखते
के लिए
देखते एक दूसरे का
And
चेहरा दिख गया,
Chicago,
बोले अरे ये कौन है?
Chicago honestly is a
हाँ बट
beautiful city
हाँ
to
बट
view
5 मिनट के
from
लिए 15 घंटे
sky.
का रास्ता अकेले बैठे हैं.
हाँ.
No, but immediately I requested someone to switch the seat that was next to Kaustabh,
अभी तू
and
बादल
then
देख, मैं कौस्तभ देखूंगा.
मैं Kaustabh देखूंगा.
Yeah. So that reminds me, interestingly, the first time when I was traveling to Purdue,
Mhm.
I got an upgrade. I was traveling with Emirates, and I got an upgrade to the business class. The airline representative at the check-in counter asked me whether I would like to have a free upgrade to the business class. And I was like, wow, of course, why not? And so that was my first experience flying business class, and it was beautiful. So
Dishan went to check in and got checked out.
good one.
I think
The
Harshal had a similar
yeah,
experience.
same
Yeah.
story. And until this pod, I didn't know that happened with Dishan Shah as well. I thought I was the one of the luckiest
Lucky.
Chosen
people
one.
to get free, yeah, chosen one.
Upgrade.
Were you also flying Emirates?
Yeah, I was flying Emirates, and on Dubai airport, I was ready to board the next flight, and then I give my boarding pass to the Emirates guy. He looks at it, and then he looks at me. He looks back to the boarding pass, looks at me. I was like, "क्या चल रहा है इसका इतना क्यों घूर रहा है?" And in front of me, without telling me, before telling me, he just goes and tears
Yes.
apart the boarding pass in two pieces. And मेरे साथ स्वप्निल और वरद, two more friends, जो हम चारों अभिजीत में हम चारों आए थे. तो मेरे साथ वो दोनों थे, हम तीनों के बोर्डिंग पास एक साथ फाड़ दिए. तो हम आ गए टेंशन में, क्योंकि अटकना तो है, पर अटकना तो मतलब इंडिया में ठीक है, यूएस में ठीक है, ऐसे बीच में नहीं अटकना था. So then we went to ask him कि अरे ये क्या फाड़ क्यों दिया भाई, मेरे को आगे जाना है या तो पीछे जाना है, पर यहाँ नहीं रुकना है. And then he just printed out a new boarding pass. He's like, why do you Indians always assume that there is something wrong? So, and then I looked at the boarding pass, and then he still didn't tell us कि this is you got an upgrade. We were just so relieved कि अरे boarding pass मिल गया, चलो जाना है US अभी. Then we go to the gate, and then we look at our boarding pass, and then we see a seat of it like 1A, 1B, 1C. like ये तो जनरली जितना लिमिटेड एक्सपीरियंस है, ये तो आगे वाले सीट्स तो सारे बिजनेस वाले होते हैं. देन व्हेन आई वेंट बैक अपस्टेयर्स, एंड देन आई आस्क्ड हिम कि अरे क्या तूने पहले अलग थे, ये क्या ये अलग दे दिए. So he's like, no, you guys got an upgrade. And then we were
Wow.
like, first I was happy. Then I was like, is he about to ask for payment? And then I asked him कि भाई हमसे नहीं होने वाला ये बिजनेस क्लास का टिकट. फिर like, नहीं, it's a free upgrade because the flight is overbooked.
I think I have never like heard in recent time anyone getting an upgrade. Every time the flights are full. You got it.
Yeah.
I got an upgrade recently
क्या
like,
बात है.
when I went to India.
Nice.
यहाँ पे
Longer flight
सबको
from Barcelona.
मेरे केस में
सबको
तो पासपोर्ट ही लेके पुलिस वाला चला गया. मैं एयरपोर्ट पे, and we were told कि do not give your passport to anyone, and this police guy comes and then takes my passport and goes away, and I have all my luggage at the counter, and then I was like sweating like क्या चल रहा है.
तूने
And on
चेक
top
इन
of
करने वाले को भी नहीं दिया होगा,
नहीं
उनको देना
for
होता है.
random purpose they were just selecting some people, and then I
अरे I
was
think you also got that potato masher, पता है? You were so scared that
हाँ.
people will be asking.
No, I didn't know in the first place. मम्मी ने सब पैक किया रहेगा, and it had like this shape, like a sickle shape of a potato masher, and I forgot the combinations of my lock, and I'm like, you remember, right, Kaustabh? And then on the Delhi, like we had flight from Mumbai to Delhi to Chicago, and on Delhi airport, I was trying all the combinations, and finally after like maybe 20 minutes or so, I finally got the
You
actual
figured it
one.
out. Wow.
And it was not the number that we had set, so I don't know how it got set.
Very
But
I'm
talking
also
about
welcome.
first meetings, since Harshal mentioned about
Right. Yeah,
Swapnil
I was
and
going to
Varad.
ask you about that.
Yeah, so I still remember Swapnil and I were the first ones who'd met at ICT. We realized that we both have acceptance into the same school, same department, and nothing better than getting to know each other. And it's always good to have company when you are traveling from India, as well as just like having a good roommate. So we started to get to know each other, and we started hunting houses together. And it was, I think, a week or two later when we got to know that our other friend Varad was heading to Purdue as well. And through him, we got to know Harshal's going to.
And all
So
of
we
you are
four
from ICT,
decided
right?
to meet. Yeah, we are all from ICT, yes.
From different
Um,
departments though. So we didn't know each other when
Oh, really?
we were in the same college for 2 years or more.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
And
didn't
so
meet in
we,
ICT at all?
I only
no,
knew
never.
Rango. Rango
Oh,
was
so you
only
Yeah,
didn't.
one
yeah,
I
yeah.
Did
knew.
you overlap though? Did you overlap like
Yeah,
years?
we
Yeah, we
all
did.
overlapped.
Yeah.
We just didn't know each other.
Oh,
And
All
I
of
think
us overlapped, I think.
I think at
yes.
one
I
point
think
all
so,
of
yeah.
us overlapped.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Swapnil and
Right.
Varad might have known each other a little, but they were
Mm.
both from the bachelor's. We both were from the master's
yeah,
stream.
but
So,
Varad
Right,
was
right.
in B Tech, right? He was in B Tech Dyes, and
mhm,
Swapnil was in
Swapnil is in
B
Chemi.
Chemi.
chemical
Yeah.
engineering.
So I
Yeah.
don't think they knew each other as much. I think the most we knew is I knew you through badminton, and I knew
Mhm.
Mihit through the same reason as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Abhijit, did
Yeah.
you
and I knew
know
Dishan from table
Mihit when in
tennis.
the last year? Did you
Did
know
you know
Mihit?
Mihit?
Yeah. He was
Akruda?
also big in badminton, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Abhijit,
I've
Abhijit
seen him
used
play with
to
his friends,
only
but
talk to people who are above this level.
nothing like that. But he used to come with his own set of friends. I've seen Harshal and him play together, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Mihit and
But yeah, it
Mihit and
was.
Swapnil were in the same
We
batch,
were
right?
classmates.
Yeah.
Swapnil and I were classmates.
And then Ranga was a
Junior
year
to me.
Junior.
after
But then
them.
he came, since I worked for 2 years in India, so he came prior to me, 1 year prior to me.
Yeah. But back to our story, where
Mhm.
it got interesting was it was while we were starting to look for apartments together, the four of us, we realized that we could have a fifth person coming in from ICT. That's where we again decided that there's no way we are going to find a 5-bed apartment in
Not at
Purdue. So
Purdue.
let's split again. And so the chemical engineering folks, that Swapnil, myself, and the third person was supposed to join, we started looking for things together. But then the fifth person never got an admit. And so we four eventually decided to get together. And it was, I would say, a very, very good experience knowing people while you're going to a place where you don't know what you would expect. At least having three companions to go with you, experience those experiences together was a big plus. I think I still remember looking for apartments, and the apartment that we eventually stayed at, which was on South Chauncey. I remember the description said that it's near to Triple X, and it got us wondering that what is this? I mean, we were a little scared to even search for it. Only then we realized that it was a very, very famous restaurant that was like a classic on the Route 66 that was very close to our place. But then that was a very like good story for us to get to know each other, because we'd met so many times in India before. Like we'd met for a dinner, we'd met a couple of times at ICT. So it really got the bond going even before we'd come to the US.
I still have that list of all the apartments that were finalized with their address, with what amenities they provided, and what most importantly the rent, which was around $300 at that time,
But no one's
$300
list
per month.
can be as
per
perfect
person,
as
right?
that of Dishan Shah. The Excel file, no one
The
can beat that.
Excel.
No one can make the Excel.
He's
No
a
one can
dedicated
make
Excel
that.
guy. Yeah.
He has Excel file for everything.
Yeah. I especially when I was looking for apartments, I was there at West Lafayette. So for people who don't know, I started my PhD in fall semester of 2017. But I was there for a semester earlier as a visiting scholar, and I was staying with Yash, one of our good friends,
Panchu.
and through him I got to know. And because I was looking for like renting an apartment starting fall, I also was looking for somebody who I can share the apartment with. And then I got to know about Mihit, who got an admit, and who is also from ICT. And then we got on call, we spoke to each other, and we thought that, yeah, we seem to be a good fit. And then I started looking for apartments. What I was doing is I looked at like a bunch of different places, and I used to take pictures and put all the details in the Excel sheet about like what amenities they have, what the rents were, and whether they are closer to the campus or far from the campus, and all these details. And I shared all of that with Mihit, and just wanted to get his opinion. I was like, "You are there, you know better.
You decide.
decided, and I'm okay with anything." So yeah, that was a fun part.
Dishan
And then
probably
we
knew.
met for the first time in Ahmedabad. So I was visiting my uncle, and he had come back for stamping of his F1 visa. So at that time, I met him for the first time, and my family also met him. And then they felt
Right.
like he's like an elder brother who will take care
That
of
was cute.
me, because
Yeah,
I never
Elder brother
stayed.
to everyone.
Yeah. Unlike
Mihit's
Bhishma Pita.
Mihit's parents, obviously, like any parents, were a little worried about the kid traveling out of the country for higher education for a long time. It's like an unknown territory. There are so many unknowns. So obviously, parents are worried. And then whether you have people that you know there, how are things going to be taken care of? And so incidentally, because I was traveling to India in summer of 2017, before we started our PhDs, and he, although he's from Mumbai, he has family relatives in Ahmedabad, and he was traveling to Ahmedabad at that point. So we got to meet, and his parents were definitely relieved to know that I was kind of settled over there, and everything will be fine.
They realized another Gujju connection already for their boy.
That's true as well.
Shah.
Yeah.
Harshal, from what I remember, you guys came over to my place too, right? Once?
I think we did, yeah. Before we
Yeah.
flew out, I think we came over to your place. I think because your place was very close to the visa consulate center, so that's when you came to pick us up.
अपने को कभी बुलाया नहीं
Correct.
साला, इतना टाइम हो गया, कितना 8 साल 9 साल से हो गया, एक बार भी बुलाया नहीं।
आके गया है तू।
रुकने के लिए नहीं आया ना।
वो लोग
तो
भी
हम
रुकने
थोड़ी
नहीं
ना
आए थे।
3 days 4 nights
stay
का
बोला
tour
ना,
करके
I thought he said he went for a stay over.
No.
I have
I said I'd
to
visit.
mention, Abhijit has been very helpful, and I think every one of us will agree to that. Especially
outside
in
of this
the initial
set of
stage.
people also, they will agree.
Absolutely.
सब कुछ
And
करता है।
I
especially
still
in the
remember
initial
first
stage when
time
you are
Walmart
new.
लेके गया था अभिजीत
सबको
हमको।
लेके जाता है।
याद है
Same.
सबको? The first Walmart.
So my visa actually got into administrative processing, and we can talk about it later and all these details. But I reached Purdue just 2 days before the semester was beginning, and Mihit was already there probably like a week in advance.
2 weeks.
And 2 weeks in advance. And then he obviously didn't know a lot of people over there. He knew me, but I wasn't there. And we had a place we had rented, but it was like an empty box. And then Abhijit helped him set things up. And Mihit, even though he was new, he tried to set things up before I came. And then most of the things that we needed, like essentials, like having a mattress and a bed and stuff, was already there. So that was really helpful. And Mihit also had set up things in the kitchen. It was great. So yeah, but Abhijit, thanks so much for that. I remember you came to pick me up when I dropped down from a shuttle from Chicago airport. You came and picked me up in your car, and then dropped me off at my place. And then you were always helpful in terms of answering any of the questions, no matter how much silly they were. When you're new to a place, you have so many questions, right? So yeah, I remember that. And
Yeah, I mean, Abhijit Abhijit had the only car for a long time between
group.
all of us, right? So all these responsibilities of relocating people, picking them up, dropping them off, taking them to Walmart and grocery shopping, and all of those responsibilities just fell on him. We just assumed he'll do it, and he did it.
And
Two
then
minutes
he
was
was
with his
when I-
junior.
Abhijit
when I
doesn't know how
came
to
in,
say
I
no.
think. Sorry.
Abhijit doesn't know how to say no.
वो तो है।
No, that is
वो
true.
तो है।
That's
तुम
a
कुछ भी पूछो,
discussion
बोल
for
देगा हाँ।
another day. But I remember when we'd come in, we had very similar experiences. We had seniors from ICT taking care of us. As you all know, most of us are from ICT, so we had that connection. Like we would ask seniors questions about what kind of areas we should look at, what kind of places we should consider staying. Are they close to campus, away from campus? They gave a very good perspective, and we just decided, Harshal, the first cohort within this group that visited Purdue, to kind of extend that helping hand to everyone. I still remember I'd met Ranga through like when he accepted his offer for Purdue. That's when he'd reached out. We had very minimal conversations because I remember I was talking to his fellow mate a little more back in the days. But then when Ranga had come in, I remember him coming in a huge car with his brother, and then he
That's
stayed in
a
my
very
room that day.
yes, that's a very good thing. Like just on that point, like how being helpful friends already. I mean, some friends that you already know is very helpful because the first time you come, you are really sort of scared of how things will be. So it is very good to have someone who you know in US and just talk with them and get to know the surroundings. And like even for me, like one of Abhijit's roommates, Swapnil, went and checked the house that we were thinking to rent. So doing some kind of these things, such like a check before sort of you may also get scammed. So it's better if you know someone, tell them to go if it is close by and get the apartment check before you rent it. And especially in the first few days, having like someone's place to be at is also very good.
And that's
just
what
get to
I
know them.
realized too. Like thoroughly thankful to all the people who helped us settle in, and we realized how important it was to kind of help the next set of students that way. It just back at Purdue, the way it was your seniors, your immediate seniors take care of your juniors, at least from ICT. That's what the equation was. And then the super seniors wouldn't care much. But I think we did things a little differently. That is why we kind of know people who came to Purdue ever since we were there. But like I said, we all had an ICT connection. But I remember, and kudos to Tarun for that. Like I know we met organically through a very different setting because everyone else on this call met through our ICT connection, but Tarun did not. And Tarun, you remember the first time?
So Tarun,
I do because I also blame Dishan for like not introducing you all first. So when I came back to Purdue for my PhD, Dishan and I were in the same program. We were taking the same courses. But for some reason, Dishan thought I was not cool enough to be part of this group and never
Professional
introduced.
and private should be separate, na?
Yeah. So he was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna hang out with this cool bunch of people. I'm not gonna introduce." But luckily, I have another friend who was my lab mate at the time, and she was very close with Abhijit. And she was the one. She was like, "Oh, you know what? I'm gonna introduce you to a few people." And then I think it was April of 2018. I think this was the first time I met all of them in a bunch. This person, she on her birthday wanted to go to a movie. Everyone else was planning a surprise for her, and she wanted to go to a movie for no reason. And she messaged me out of nowhere, and she's like, "Want to go to a movie? No one wants to come. Will you come?" I was free, so I was like, "Lab mate hai, chalo chalte hai, abhi kya?" So I get messages from Abhijit and others saying, "अरे तू क्यों लेके जा रहा है मूवी को? तू इधर टाइम पास करवा, पीएमयू में थोड़ा ये कर वो कर." तो मैं पीएमयू लेके गया उसको, मैं बोला थोड़ा खा लेते हैं, खा के मूवी चलते हैं.
Should mention what PMU is though first.
So it's the student union. Right now it's fully renovated. It's much better looking, but back then it was it had its old charm.
I mean, coming from India, it was still way better looking.
Coming from India, it was like we were like, so most of us have a Purdue Federal Credit Union account, and we had a branch in the union, and we first thing that we used to do was go there and open an account. But going
like
back into the story.
Yeah, it's like Purdue's own bank.
Yeah.
And the food court there too.
And the food court's there downstairs. So I was having food, and then like we'll go to the movie, we'll grab something there. I was like, नहीं नहीं नहीं, time है बहुत है, late का movie है, आराम से 20 minute का trailer होगा. And then these guys came with the cake and everything, and
I was
then
also there, I
we,
think, or
yeah,
no?
yeah,
Yeah,
you
Yeah,
were
I
there.
remember this was
I
shortly
remember
after
that.
this, we all went to the Purdue peace
Yeah.
Okay.
signing.
this
Okay,
was
And then we
that's where we
played
2017,
2017,
took the
right? This was
photo.
Yeah,
2017.
2018 we
2018 you went
2018.
there, I think.
2018. So
Early in
Tarun
2018.
coming to Purdue from 2015, it took him 3 years to finally get
Oh,
introduced to us.
wow.
अरे
दिशान
I'll
की
tell
वजह से
you.
दिशान की वजह से
Tarun,
So
so I'm
my
actually curious.
Dishan.
my story was completely different coming to Purdue, right? Like you heard all the good stories. Oh, Abhijit taking care, seniors taking care of them.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I'm
Mine was
interested to hear.
completely opposite.
Mm.
So I came to Purdue with 3 other people that I met in Hyderabad through like Facebook or something.
Okay.
One of them happens to be my senior in my undergrad. He decided to work and then decided to come back as well. So we both traveled together. I had no alma mater at Purdue, no one to talk to at Purdue.
Mhm.
I found 2 people on Facebook to rent a house with, like it's a 3 bed, 2 bath. But they were only coming, I think, a week or 2 weeks after I came to the US.
Oh.
So what happened was I came to the US and then my lease was not starting for like next 2 or 3 days. So I asked my friend or like the senior who I came with to Purdue, does he know anyone? He said, yeah, I know someone. He'll pick us up and then we can stay at his place for 2 days. And then you can go to your apartment. So I came, he picked us up. So we landed in Chicago.
Huh.
We got onto the shuttle
Mhm.
and the senior lost his luggage.
Arey
He
wow.
had his luggage
Oh.
outside the shuttle. I don't know how it happened, but when he got down in West Lafayette, he didn't have. तो हम बोले यार starting में ही ये हो गया. So he filed for complaint. Someone took us to Walmart. He got some clothes. Luckily, all his documents were in the bag that he had with him. तो वो बच गया.
That's a smart
तो
thing.
किसी ने हमको लेके गया बंदे ने. I don't know if you know this place. It's called Waterfront.
Yeah.
It's right
Yeah.
behind Neon Cactus. It's one of the shadiest areas that I've been to.
Yes.
Wasepura, West Lafayette.
But Yash used to, Panchu used to love that place. He
Yes,
stayed
yes,
Because
there.
it was
love that
cheap.
place.
because that's
Yes,
Purdue.
Because he was the Sardar Singh.
It was on. It was very cheap.
But
So
Sardar Singh
I,
is
I
someone
have spent a
else.
few months
Oh,
over
sorry.
there.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
mixed up.
but I'll tell you the state of the apartment that these guys.
Yeah,
I
they were
don't. I
living
don't
in.
even remember their names.
Mhm.
So it's their friend's place,
Okay.
and they lived in the upstairs apartment. They said our friends are not here. They were on internships or something.
Mhm.
We are maintaining the house, and they were not maintaining the house. They had the keys, so they left us in there, and I went into the toilet to use the restroom. It was covered with hair all over.
Oh God.
तो मैंने बोला यार अभी आ गया तो आ गया, अभी 1-2 दिन एडजस्ट करना है. तो मेरा दोस्त ने बेड ले लिया, मेरे को बोला तू काउच में सो जा. तो मैं बोला ठीक है मैं सो जाता हूँ काउच पे. तो 11th रात को मैं सो गया काउच पे. 12th को उठा, मेरा पूरा बैग वाज फिल्ड विद बेड बग बाइट्स.
Oh.
तो मेरा इंश्योरेंस भी शुरू नहीं हुआ तब तक.
Oh my God.
तो मैं इमीडिएटली जा गया पुश और मैं बोला इंश्योरेंस शुरू करना है आज से. बोलता क्या जल्दी है, तुम्हारा सेमेस्टर 2 हफ्ते में शुरू हो रहा है, आराम से कर सकते हो, यू हैव टाइम. मैं बोला नहीं नहीं नहीं, आई वांट टू स्टार्ट. तो बोला ठीक है, because I knew about insurance because I have cousins in the US and they told me how expensive healthcare gets here. तो मैंने बोला पहले इंश्योरेंस शुरू करवा देता हूँ. तो इंश्योरेंस भरा, बोले कि okay it's we retrograded and it starts from 10th August or whatever it is. तो मैं बोला I want to see someone. तो बोले क्या हुआ. मैं बोला अरे I have bed bug bites. तो बोले is it emergency. तो मैं बोला yeah if you have urgent care or something I would like to see. So they told me to go. When I went to the urgent care, they were like, okay, how bad it is. And then I showed my back. They were like, it's a surprise you are not in anaphylaxis shock.
Oh.
इतने सारे bed bugs के भाई. तो मैं बोला अभी क्या करना है. तो बोले कि we'll give you some injections and then just put all your clothes in washer and dryer. Don't use them because we don't know if it got moved into. Then I go to my rental company and I said, my lease is starting in 2 days, but I need the apartment. They were like, let's see what we can do. So they were good enough. They said, okay, we'll give you 1 day before. So they gave me the keys. First thing I do when I go into the new apartment is go into the washer dryer room, put all my clothes in the dryer and washer, then
Yeah.
like swap them around. I was like, oh, okay. And then my roommates came and then all. Then I made friends because I used to go play soccer Then I met few people, and then I found out that some people live in the same apartment complex as me. So I made friends. Then when I came back to Purdue, I was roommates with one of them. And then, I was friends with them. I had a good group of friends to come back to Purdue as well. That's what made it easy for me to make a decision कि अरे वापस जाएंगे तो कोई ना कोई है उधर कि ऐसा नहीं है कि मैं वापस शुरू से फ्रेंड्स बनाने का देख रहा हूँ वापस शुरू से है. So I had a few friends, but then I'm still friends with them, but again, I didn't hang out with them as much because they had other friends from their own departments and other things. So now organically I moved on into this group.
I've never heard about all these stories about Tarun. Like,
तो podcast के लिए बचा के रखे हम.
Airport stories. I think Dishan has one.
Yeah, Dishan.
Oh, absolutely. Airport stories. Before I go into airport stories, though, I just want to mention that this experience that Tarun shared, it highlights that having a group of people who actually connect with you and are there for you, like making some friends, especially when you go to a new country where you don't really know people, right?
Yeah.
Having that kind of it's kind of a family away from a family.
Yeah.
And that is a very important part. If you don't have that, your experiences can widely be different.
I remember because most of us had someone to go to, but Kaustabh's story is slightly different, I think. He had moved directly to his apartment, I guess, right? That's what I remember.
So I think, for me, I already had reached out because at that time, Mihit was too busy to reply to WhatsApp messages.
Really?
He would only talk to people above this.
That's Abhijit. But Chino used to feel like I don't know, he was too pampered, I would say, when he came to US.
Not at all.
You two got along really well,
I
right?
went
You
into
were taking
apartment.
courses together and you were
I mean,
like
we were
hanging out
classmates.
together.
That was going to happen naturally. But he
before,
soon realized that. But initially, he was like, who this Mihit is? And then he would never talk like to
Both are
me
playing the
who
blame
I'm
game
going
now.
to meet and stay with.
I mean, Mihit was very
Directly
famous
we
in our
met in the
batch.
plane. I told him, let's meet at the airport. No, I have some connections. I'll directly get into some lounge, etc.
Who were those connections? Tell me about them. Tell us
है
about
अभी
them.
मतलब हाँ हम
Political
directly बोले थे
connections.
ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं बोला कि
So he
फोकट
had
में
some
इम्पोर्टेंस बढ़ा रहा है.
connections inside the airport, I guess. I don't know.
Not at all. ऐसे कुछ नहीं हम थे अभी directly.
connections inside
You
the
didn't get
airport.
the hint, Mihit. You didn't get the hint.
He did not want to meet me. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
that's it.
Yes.
तुम तो बहुत फेमस थे हमारे बैच में.
वो सोचा होगा कि चिपकू होगा
Exactly.
ये भी पूछेगा मेरे को लॉन्च में लेके आने के लिए मैं मिलूंगा नहीं इसको.
But actually, you have a very different image of.
But Sarkar, you have to reiterate that story why Mihit is famous because it's a very similar story for me
For
in
Abhijit.
Swapnil's batch.
But
It's
you are
been
not
brought up
like in
a few
2015
times.
batch. You are not like cursed that much as I am in his batch.
I thought I
Yeah.
was, but anyway, the
Maybe
reason for that
I
is
was in the
because
job as
Abhijit
well as.
wishes he was.
Mhm. No, the reason why we bring that up is typically from ICT we would have two undergrads join into the graduate
Direct
program.
PhD program.
But when you would have a senior like Mihit or me, either through our masters or through our work experience, applying into like similar colleges, we basically hogged a seat. So there's
We were like a Marvel
obvious,
crossover.
repercussions
I think
of
the
that
reason
from the
for
batch.
that was also Mihit was a surprise package because
No one
Purdue was
expected him to join
it was not expected because Purdue was sending out acceptance and we were like, what happened to the other one? And then we were like, oh Mihit,
I think it's
who's
a
Mihit?
good time to give a little background कि कैसा चलता है ICT और Purdue का connection.
Oh yeah, for
It's
sure.
like an entire episode though, but yeah,
Yeah,
briefly you
but
can talk about it.
maybe just to give a gist, and others I think might know a little more because of the fact that it's a much more renowned link between undergrads from ICT and Purdue. But we've had alma mater who've been with Purdue for so many years, a lot of professors who've been in exchange programs at Purdue. I think that connection just grew organically a few decades ago, and the students have reaped benefits from it ever since. And I would also hand it off to our seniors Maybe the juniors think about us the same, but we've kind of done decent work during our PhDs. And I think that's what's kept the confidence
Yeah.
within Purdue going, that students from this college will do well at Purdue, and that's how the link kind of work
Yeah.
goes a
And
long
I
way.
think if our viewers and listeners are interested, we can actually in the future do separate episodes about how you can choose what university you can go into, what the process of applications are, the visa process, a little bit about that, things to be mindful of before coming here and during the travel, and also how you can settle in finding an apartment and things like that. We can actually, based on our experiences, share some advice which could be helpful for prospective students who want to come in for grad school or undergrads over here. Yeah, so
Dishan, you
that's
have to tell your passport story.
yeah. Okay, so that's a very funny and kind of embarrassing story. So what happened is this is not the first time of me visiting Purdue. This is probably the second time when I was traveling back to India and then going back to Purdue. So Chicago O'Hare Airport is the closest international, closest and relatively most busy international airport that we have from Purdue. Of course, there is Indianapolis Airport, but there are limited airlines that operate in Indianapolis. So most of us take our flights to Chicago O'Hare Airport. So I landed in the airport, and I think this was, if I remember it right,
Evening.
probably 2018 January or it could be
No,
2019
it was
January.
2017.
2017.
Was it
2017, we came to pick you up.
2017?
Like
Oh, that's the first.
I remember it because 2017 we had just like I had moved into the apartment and Dishan was coming, and in the
Oh, is
evening we
that when
went
it
to
happened?
pick up.
Okay,
We went
okay,
to pick
got
up
it.
Dishan at PMU,
Mm.
and Dishan comes home next day. He just casually tells me, I think I forgot my passport at the
At
airport.
the airport. Mhm.
I
And I'm
didn't.
like,
Okay,
what?
here's how it went. Here's how it
And
went.
it was far drive. Like it was like
Yeah,
2.5, 3 hours of a drive. And
yeah.
yeah, it was just insane. And he
So what
was so
happened
calm.
is this was the second. Yeah, I mean that calmness is from the outside, but then there's a lot of thing that goes on inside. So
Meditation.
before, so this was actually the second time because I was there as a resident scholar, as I mentioned, right? So this was the second time I was visiting Purdue, and what happened is after this um, customs check-in, we pick up our bags, and then I put my bags on the trolley, and then when we are leaving, there is the customs people. You have to hand over the slip, right?
Hmm.
So to hand over the slip, I had a passport and a slip in my hands, and then I was walking my trolley with my bags, and then what I did is I put my passport on the top of a bag on the trolley, just to hand over the slip to that person. So because my hands were occupied, and then I walked the trolley outside, and outside I realized immediately that my passport is missing, but they don't let you back inside. Once you have left that customs area and you are out, you can't really go back inside. So I spoke to them and I tried to have a look in the lobby over there, but could not see my passport. So I spoke to an officer over there who said that, okay, there's a lost and found office who you can approach and talk about this. So then what I did is I went and spoke to them. They said that if it is found, people are going to bring it to this office. We don't know when we will get it, so you can wait, or you can give your contact details and we can reach out to you once we find your item. So then I had a shuttle in the next 15-20 minutes, and then I was contemplating whether I should take this shuttle or talk to the shuttle operators to transfer me to the next shuttle. But then I was uncertain on when I will get it. I asked them. They said maybe by tomorrow we'll get it. I was like, there's no point waiting. If I'm going to get it, I probably will get it tomorrow. So I should just go to Purdue. That's what I did. And on my way to Shutter, like maybe half an hour drive, I got a call that hey, we have found your passport and you can collect it from us. I was like, I should have waited. But then I asked them, can I pick it up tomorrow? And they said, okay, you can. And then I got to Purdue and went back the next day
Yeah.
to collect my passport, back and forth. So spend like $100 traveling through shuttles.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that was the part which hurt me a little bit because I spent a lot of money for a stupid mistake.
And he's good.
But
Yeah.
दिख रहा है
Yeah,
कुछ जो है बोला।
No, but
Passport खो गया
seriously,
is okay.
on a serious
Passport खो
note,
गया
when
is
you are
okay.
coming from India for the first time and then you convert that $100 into
Yeah.
rupees,
yeah,
it's in nowadays
So
like it's like 8,500 rupees, and then you think like
yeah.
what?
कि बेकार में करता
Dishan
हो
is
यार।
not a traditional guru. He
He is
likes
not.
Yes,
maintaining
I do
Excel
spend.
sheets, but
I do spend.
He
Yeah,
spends
and that's what
money.
my
he
parents
may
I
do his
wonder
research
whether-
well, but he loves spending.
Whether he had I now wonder whether he had an Excel sheet for like roommates, and what category did I have to pass to become his roommate?
Well,
You were
clearly
graded C.
passed.
Exactly.
अब तो
I
दुकान बोलेगा ही
recently
कि
for-
did not maintain a Excel sheet
फिर आप
for
बताओगे
roommate.
कि
Kaustabh,
बताया नहीं.
Kaustabh, I'm actually interested to know, like, who all did you know? How was your experience moving in? And Ranga, you also. Like, can you
Yeah,
share
yeah.
more about that?
So for me, it was a little bit different because I think
मैं
we
हुई
had
different.
initial plans to be with like हमारा मेरा और मीत का वो plans did not go through. So what
You
I
had
did
a
was
fall off in the very beginning.
yeah वहीं पे
माछ
वहीं
माछ
से
खाबो
वहीं से हमारे differences दिख गए.
वो माछ खाबो था और यहाँ पे जैन आदमी था.
Very badly.
Pani khabo.
तो वो तो बनने नहीं वाला था. तो मैंने क्या किया, I joined that WhatsApp group. So every year Purdue admits have like a giant huge WhatsApp group of all new incoming students. So I just posted
Right.
in there saying, hey, I'm landing on this and this, I'm looking for a roommate. And then Garge he's like now one of my friends in very close friends. So he reached out at that time saying, hey, we are a group of 3 people, we have another spot in our house, do you want to join? And that at that time I was like, पहले बताओ सब नॉन वेजिटेरियन हो या नहीं उस ग्रुप पे, पहले वो बोलो. तो मैंने सीधा सीधा बोला कि मैं वो compatibility है या नहीं देख लिया. तो they were like हाँ वो उसमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. So I said yes, and I didn't know at that time it was apartment 10. ठीक है. वो manage I forget the management company.
Milo.
Milo. Yes.
Milo.
I had no idea
Favorite.
about how bad Milo was. I was
Oh,
But
like,
the
Milo.
location was really good.
the
Yeah.
location was good.
Location was
It was
good.
right on
Right
Chauncey-
next to Chipotle.
Hill,
Yeah,
Chauncey Hill. Yeah.
एकदम
Chauncey Hill.
center of Purdue था. I can
Purdue,
say.
yes. So it was like a 15-minute walks to my department, then 10-minute walk to the PMU. So location was okay. I had no idea about the management, but I said people look okay, and I just said yes. So that was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
No, on record, चीनू ने कभी पूछा नहीं मेरे को कि किधर रहने का है. वो बात ही नहीं करता था. एयरपोर्ट पे सीधा एयरप्लेन में सीधा बात किया है.
no,
Once
no,
or twice
Chinu is
only I
Kaustabh.
spoke to him. एक तो एडमिशन मिला तो ओके एडमिशन मिल गया मीत को ओके. एंड देन
Okay.
प्लेन का टिकट हमने साथ में बुक करने का सोचा. एंड देन द थर्ड वाज मीटिंग डायरेक्टली इन द प्लेन. And if he had like spoken to me earlier, then I'm sure I would have brought you in contact with, because Swapnil, Harshal, I spoke to them on lengths to know about Purdue and environment. And then they introduced me, I mean, to the whole circle who are there in different years of PhD.
And a
Made
good
new
friend
connections,
circle.
you know,
I
new
think I had
friends.
a
So,
say. I
yeah, it's
have.
good.
I think
Much
that
Apartment
resulted in
10
me
में.
getting like a very
Yeah.
big group of second set of friends.
Yeah,
like-
yeah.
He stepped out of his comfort zone, and that has reaped
Yeah.
him some beautiful fruits.
That is
and
in the
friends.
hindsight, yeah.
In the hind, from the hindsight, yeah. Of course.
Ranga.
But I
मॉडलिंग
So,
करियर के पहले कैसा था?
God.
मॉडलिंग मतलब
Student
सिमुलेशन हाँ
Simulation.
FII simulation.
So
Yeah, I mean,
for
if
me,
Ranga wants to choose,
I mean, right
the
now he's
other
a
kind of
model in
modeling,
Spain.
it's okay.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a model.
He does do-
Rajmundry
का राजा.
Rajmundry का
Rajmundry का
राजा,
राजा.
Prince in Spain.
For all our viewers,
Tarragona.
information, Ranga is also a very big YouTube star.
Yeah.
More
Yeah,
famous than
YouTube.
us.
Hashtag चारों
Plugging
तरफ
time.
चारों
प्यार.
तरफ vlogs.
चारों तरफ vlogs, sorry.
कमेंट
cool.
में पिन किया जाएगा उसके लॉग को.
and an amazing dancer, as you can see from the vlogs.
Yes.
Sure. I'll share the link with everyone. So for me, I went to Purdue with one of my batchmates. Both of us got admits. So we decided to live together in the same apartment, close to where Abhijit and Harshal used to live. And the main thing for me, like why my parents were worried, was that I had a major leg surgery. I carried I had to carry like 60 kgs with a knee surgery. So that was very difficult. Luckily, I had a cousin who lived close by, like in Michigan. So he came to the airport at Chicago, and then he took us. It's a long drive still from Michigan to Chicago to Purdue. But luckily, Abhijit and all had a big apartment since four of us are living. And then we all of us stayed there for a few days before I got to my own apartment. And that period really helped us connect as well. They really explained everything about Purdue, how to open a bank account. I remember like even Swapnil came with us to open the bank account. Abhijit really helped us buy all the stuff. And even
How
my
to open a bank account with no money.
with no money, with
That's
$5
$5 minimum.
minimum $5. So it was a very nice experience, and luckily my cousin was also there, so he took us to Walmart like with Abhijit and stuff. So that really helped. And overall, I feel like first 10-15 days, if you have someone around who can help, these guys, I would say I was very lucky because I was able to meet all the nice guys and girls probably around. But the important thing is like you probably need to find who can help you. Some people I found were not always helpful. So you just need to also have that some skill as to determine who can help you or not. And that will make connections easier. And they will introduce probably to more number
And
of
asking for
people.
help is, I think, the first step. Like many people are shy,
Yeah.
they don't
Yeah.
ask, and
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's
I think one thing that I'd like to pivot to at this point was you've heard about our individual connections. I'm gonna have to hand it out to Mihit about how he got all the uncles, as we call each others now, together.
Purdue
I'll let him
Mustande.
expand.
Started
Oh
with
yeah.
Mustang.
Yeah,
And that's
you
how
want to talk more?
that's how the Crestview group started, right?
Crestview, by
mostly
the
Crest
way,
works.
we should tell people what Crestview is. We know we
Yeah,
internally
that's
we
true.
know.
I mean, we call ourselves Crestview Buds. So what is Crestview?
Yeah, so remember I told about the Excel sheet and the research
Yes.
that I did to finalize the places. So
Yes.
one of these apartments was under the management of Crestview, and they had an apartment complex called Crestview North in West Lafayette. So that was one of the places I was looking at when I was scouting for an apartment, and I immediately liked that place. Because it had a nice balcony, and I care about balconies. And the view from the balcony was so beautiful. Like there was just like a slope which was leading to
It was above the slope.
river
That
road.
was,
It was above the slope.
Yes.
It was at an elevation, and the view outside was like clear because there were no buildings in front of that.
There was the pond. You remember the pond?
Yeah, there was a pond. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And the interior was also nice. As in, I liked the wooden walls.
It was like
and
a
interiors.
cabin. Yeah, it was like a cabin.
Right.
Yeah.
So I liked the
Wooden
vibe immediately, and it was reasonably priced. I don't know. It may be expensive now, but back then it was reasonably priced.
This is not
started
a
less
paid.
than-
This is not a paid promotion, by the way.
This is not a paid
Yes.
promotion. Honestly, not at all.
I
Yes.
mean, that's
Future
how we
paid
met.
promotions comment.
Yeah.
Right.
If Crestview wants to pay us, we are fine.
We'll take it.
But
We'll take it.
we did ended up
We'll be
getting like
happy
at
to.
one time we had like
Mihit.
8 or 10 apartments, and then
Right.
most of us
So,
were recommended by us.
Yes.
Yes.
And
So
Mihit
that
got
was-
all the reference.
Both of
So
us.
that is
Dishan
also
and I.
backstory.
I used to
that-
do the front work, and we used to reap the benefits.
So when we started living there, we were the first in our group to live there. I didn't know of anyone who was living there before we started living there. So in a way, I was like, yeah, well, we are not very close to the other people in the group. But then, because it became a hub and people eventually anyway used to gather to our place, especially on the weekends, hang out, have fun, cook together, play something, board games or things together. It became a hub, and then people slowly thought, hey, this is a good place to live in. Why don't we all try and live close by? So then eventually, at some point, I think we had like 5 apartments.
No, I'm telling we had like
Okay,
7, 8
Seven,
apartments.
Seven,
eight,
Oh,
eight
seven
wow.
or eight,
apartments,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
I
Just
think it
probably
was
the
for
entire
friend
yours,
the
circle.
first
then
floor, like
first
leaving a
floor
few,
में
quite a few were us.
And I think this
मैं,
was
Rango,
especially
Harshal.
important because during COVID times when we couldn't get out of our
Yes,
houses, we could
exactly.
just go into
Yeah.
each other's
Yep,
apartments and
yep.
just chill out.
So
I
it was
remember we
Mihit and
used
me,
to, yeah.
then Harshal and Swapnil living on the same floor, Kaustabh and
Ranga
Ranga
and
living next to
Dhaval,
us.
first.
First,
Dhawa also,
first
yes.
after you and
So
of
first
you
we
and
And
came, and then came Ranga Dhaval, then came Kaustabh, because Dishan was
mhm,
supposed to go back, but
mhm.
then we stayed together for like 6 months or so. And then we had Ankita, then we had
Siddhi
Varun,
अंकिता
Hate,
की
Siddhi
roommate
also
कौन
there.
थी?
Varun and
Siddhi.
Gaurav.
सिद्धि.
Siddhi was there.
And
Kaustabh was asking something.
Kaustabh and
Kaustabh
uh,
and Dushyant. Yeah.
Dishan.
And
So we had like 7, 8 apartments at least. That's what I'm saying.
Mhm, mhm.
yeah, a lot of them.
काफी लोग आए. अंकिता भी आई थी ना इसके
Last.
साथ
अंकिता,
में.
एक गौरव
Yeah,
और ये भी आए.
Hmm.
yeah.
Yes, but I think it's gonna take a very
And
different
Abhijit,
episode for us
even
to
though he
talk about.
was not from Crestview, but he was at
Almost
least
every day.
90% of the
Adopted.
time
Of the
at
time he was
Crestview.
there.
Only for
Good.
sleeping he used to go back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I
We used
think
to have
Tarun,
so many
likely with
discussions with
Tarun.
him about
हाँ,
this. Like,
Yeah,
तू क्यों नहीं
yeah.
खरीद लेता एक और यहाँ पे अपार्टमेंट? इतना तो
But
पढ़ा
then
है
it made
तो.
sense, right? कि
Yeah,
गाड़ी
but
है
he
तो
owned a
फिर
गाड़ी है
रहते
तो
car.
दूर
गाड़ी पे.
रहेंगे.
दूर रहने का.
The
अरे
convenience
he
of
was saving a bit, I guess, staying
yes.
it was cheaper
away.
to stay farther.
Yeah.
Oh
The
yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think the way it,
Yeah.
I think if you are in like a campus town in the US,
Mhm.
the closer
Mhm.
you are to a campus, the higher the price of the
Correct,
rent is.
correct.
And the
But
smaller your rooms get.
The smaller your
Yes.
rooms
But
get.
Kaustabh and I, even though we got the car in 2019, we did not move out because at that time we were like so many people staying nearby,
Yeah, it was a hub.
and it had become
And
a very convenient thing. Yeah, whenever you feel like bored or you want to talk something, discuss something, it was very convenient to go to each other's place.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
We used
that's why,
to sit
yeah.
together in an apartment and organize Counter-Strike games.
Oh yes,
We used to,
Hmm.
yeah,
Vihang used to be there. Yeah,
Vihang
yeah.
used
Young used to
to,
be
yeah.
there. Hmm.
This was all COVID.
Yeah.
Great time,
I
man.
think
Great
I think
Friday,
time.
let
I
us.
still remember Friday रात को काम करने के बाद सब ऐसे बैठ के कार्ड्स खेलते थे और
Yeah.
फिर 11
We
बजे
used to
Yeah.
have
मीत बोलता था अरे मुझको जाके इंस्ट्रूमेंट चेक करना है. फिर मैं बोलता था जा ही रहे तो मैं भी आ जाता हूँ थोड़ा
मैं
सेल्स
भी
चेक
आता
कर
हूँ.
लेता हूँ. और फिर
And
मैं
then
और मैं
बोलता
Abhijit
था
कार
used
चल
में
to,
बैठ
तरुण को भी
कर
initially
देखना है.
Abhijit used to
सबको
take
जाना
us.
होता था.
Yeah. And then we used
और
to
मैं
park
कार
in
में
the
बैठता था.
S permit.
Yeah.
And then we used to quickly, like one used to stay in the car and
कार
quickly go up
हाँ
and then come back. And then the second guy would go.
Yeah.
But it was, yeah, great
और जो
time.
भी घर पे था चाय बनाता था
चाय
वापस आने
Yes.
लोगों के
Oh
लिए.
yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I
It was
did
Everything
not
was on
drink
demand.
the
Like
tea, but I used to make a lot of tea. I remember that.
the memories
Party
that we have
बनता
had
था.
in Crest too, they're like one of the few of the best memories, and we can obviously like make several episodes on them,
Separate
and
episode बनेगा उसके
inevitably
लिए.
they will be part of every episode in some way or the other. But
Yeah.
yeah, those were some amazing memories, especially the summer. I think the first summer that I and Mihit were there, and I think Kaustabh, it was your first summer as well. I think that entire summer we got introduced to Catan, I think back then, and then maybe more of cards and less of Catan in that summer, but
Yes, yes.
we were
Yeah,
playing
cards
so
तीन
was.
much,
पत्ती
so much the
काली
entire
तेरी सॉरी.
summer. Kali Tiri,
I
yeah.
think we got the craze of Catan from 2019, and then it kept on
Yeah.
increasing in
Yeah, I
during the
think when
COVID
we
time.
went to Chicago and that Michigan
Okay, that's when you
skiing trip,
started.
that's
Yes.
when I think I, for the first time, played Catan when we had rented that Airbnb and they had the Catan
the
board over there.
fancy Airbnb,
Yeah, that was a nice
the
one.
mansion. Yeah.
The
Not as
mansion.
fancy as the one we had in Austin, though. But that's for another episode.
Oh yeah.
That trip was also very good. Chicago wala.
Yeah.
Oh, agreed. But coming back to how we met each other, I don't think I ever mentioned about how I met Mihit for the first time. Because again, we've been talking about how we probably passed each other by at ICT, but never kind of had interactions. And then he comes to Purdue. He obviously was a classmate of our roommate, so Swapnil, and he knew Harshal too.
Harshal.
So when he was coming in, he was only talking to those two. We never had a conversation before he came to Purdue. And then when he'd come to Purdue, his apartment lease was supposed to start after a few days, so he was rooming with us. And my parents were visiting back then, and we were out on a road trip, so never met Mihit. And now when I come in, he's at our place. But we became very fast friends. Obviously, we realized that we'd seen each other, met each other so many times. And then the conversations just grew organically. I remember all the fun times at Chauncey too before he eventually moved. And then parents are very fond of him too because he would always take them around. And that's I think a story with everyone in this group. Like it just, the conversations just kept growing. We just kept getting close, and now
I
we
think
call
for the
ourselves
fall,
brothers.
your Chauncey apartment was the hub, right? Because we all used to
Yeah.
Oh
come
yeah.
there.
Before the Crest tube.
And I
Yes, in the
also
beginning.
like blame them for getting me into Game of Thrones at the wrong time. I got into Game of Thrones because of them, because I remember we used to come every Sunday, right, to watch GOT on your big screen.
Oh
And
yeah.
then they got me into Game of Thrones in like season 6, or I think season 6. And then I was like, oh, okay, this is fun to watch. And then season 8 happened.
Oh yeah. No,
First time to get into that show.
we used to have a lot of watch parties at our place, Harshal, if you remember. We would
Yeah.
do
I mean,
GOT,
same
we
thing.
would done World Cup.
The way I watch series is I first let the series get aired first, like from first episode to the last, and then I start watching it because I don't have the patience to wait another year to see what's going on, especially when when it ends on a cliffhanger, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I didn't get into Game of Thrones. And then there were these people watching that show, and I was like, okay, the Jon Snow मर गया, अरे Jon Snow जिंदा हो गया. Like Jon Snow है कौन?
मीर
Then
विराज
exactly, जॉन स्नो जिंदा हो गया. ये है कौन? फिर तुम मरा कैसे पहले वो देखना पड़ा मुझे. So then I started watching season 1. That is the only show that I have watched which was live, which hasn't ended, and I was still watching it. So that was the only one. And I blame these guys for that. Because पहले ही पता चल गया जॉन स्नो जिंदा
जिंदा
मतलब है, ठीक है, मर गया यार, पता है जिंदा होने वाला है. That kind of thing.
आई थिंक उसके थ्रू भी हमको ये पता चला कि वो हॉरर मूवी का हम लोग उसके बाद से ये करने लगे. दैट
Yeah.
वाज हाउ वी केम टू नो वी लाइक हॉरर मूवीज,
Horror. Yes.
zombie
Yeah.
movies,
Yeah.
so many
Yes.
zombie movies.
And then
Yeah.
Kaustabh and I have spent a lot of time watching horror movies. We used to, every time a new horror show, whenever it came out on any movie that we just decided, okay, this looks like a good movie, just come and watch. None of us else were interested in the movie, but in the horror genre, but just Kaustabh and me, we are, and even now, like Kaustabh lives next door to me. And even now we sometimes get together to watch some horror movies and shows. So that's
Yeah, you have to be around Kaustabh when it's a horror movie
All
because
the
he
I think
just loves jump scares.
all the juicy details I think we need to get into, but
Yeah,
we'll keep it
we
for
can
some
eventually
other
get
time.
into a
yes.
lot of details,
Yes.
and
Before
obviously there are a
before
lot more
that,
episodes that we are going to do. So
yeah,
for yeah,
I
Parekh,
just remembered I met some people from this group in 2015. I'll tell you.
really?
In 2015, I was taking courses from chemical engineering. This is the same year that Radha, Abhijit, and others, and Swapnil came to Purdue.
Yeah.
So I took transport, or at least I registered for transport from Basran, or whoever that guy's name is.
Yeah.
Sat in the first class, and then it started with an assignment, right? Saying write all the equations you remember. मैंने बोला यार मैं 1 साल से काम कर रहा हूँ, मेरा मतलब कुछ याद भी नहीं था. मैं बोला थोड़ा थोड़ा धीरे धीरे करके ये करो. बंदे के एक्सपेक्टेशंस अलग थे, तो मैं बोला छोड़ो, छोटा लेवल ट्रांसपोर्ट लूंगा. और 2 फार्मा के कोर्सेस थे, बायरेक्लाइटिस एंड लिस्टर. So I was in those 2 courses, and Radha was in those 2 courses as well. So
तो राधा ने नहीं मिलाया तेरे को इस ग्रुप से.
अरे सुनो ना पहले. तो क्या हुआ, राधा एक कोर्स ड्रॉप किया, मैंने दूसरा कोर्स ड्रॉप किया, तो हम एक कोर्स में ना रहता है. Then Radha used to hang out with Swapnil quite a bit, so I used to see them outside in the corridors waiting for the next class.
Okay.
So I met them there. But then I never met Abhijit back then. Because I don't know if he was in that, because Radha and I think Swapnil took that particle engineering course or whatever that happened right after
Litster.
Reclatis course. Yeah,
S-
So
Litster's
you
course.
did your master's in pharma or in chemical engineering?
So it's engineering management, and I could
Ah,
take courses from engineering anywhere,
got
any
it.
engineering,
Got it. Got it.
right? I had to take 6 engineering courses and 4 management courses.
Yeah.
Then मैं तीर मारने के लिए बोला चलो केमिकल इंजीनियरिंग के मास्टर्स
बैकग्राउंड
कोर्सेस
है तो
लेता हूँ.
करना पड़ेगा.
तो मैं गया बासरान के में, बोला यार मेरे पास टाइम नहीं है इतना, मेरे को 1.5 साल में खत्म करना है, क्योंकि मेरे पास फंडिंग नहीं था, मैं खुद से स्पॉन्सर कर रहा था खुद को. बोला मैं बासरान के क्लास लूंगा, तो बाकी के 3 कोर्सेस तो गए तेल लेने.
Yeah,
तो मैं
of
बोला
course.
छोड़ो, आई ड्रॉप दिस, आई टेक
Pretty
सम अदर
intensive
ट्रांसपोर्ट.
coursework,
Yeah.
yeah, in the first semester.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I still
So-
remember Basran's class. Oh my gosh. So many memories.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess the talks are never going to end. But for today, I think this is a good place to close our episode. And we would love to get the suggestions from our viewers and listeners about what you would like to know more about. If you have any questions, and just let us your feedback. Let us know your feedback as well. If you like the format, do you like us to do anything more fun? We are open for suggestions, and it's always great to hang out with this group of people, because it's just like we are hanging out with friends. And this podcast, actually, it doesn't seem like work, because it's like just friends hanging out together. So that's the fun part, and we'll try and see we can continue doing this for as long as we can. And yeah, that's the journey of how I met your uncles.
Awesome.
So for more content, like, comment, subscribe, and share.
Hello and everyone. That's the best way to start.
Hello and everyone.
Hello and everyone is the new before
Hello and
you
everyone.
meet.
मैं एक्चुअली बोलने वाला था कि हंसो मत स्टार्टिंग
made
में.
it.
Hello.
but
Okay,
Oh.
settle down. Kids,
हर्षल का क्या चालू होता है बंद नहीं होता, देखो चलते रहेगा.
Yes.
हर्षल,
all good.
हंसना बंद करने के लिए यूनाइटेड का स्कोर देख ले, हंसना बंद हो
हो गया,
जाएगा.
वो देख के हंस रहा हूँ मैं.
ठीक है, एडिटिंग में निकाल देंगे, टेंशन मत ले.
बहुत एडिटिंग करना पड़ने वाला
नहीं यार, I had to mute, नहीं तो
फाट कर रहा था.
हाँ, I was being a
पर
considerate
हंसा
friend.
क्यों तू? मेरे को वही नहीं समझ में आया. इसको देख के इतना हंसने को आ रहा है.
हाँ.
Mihit और
अरे
Kaustabh को
I don't know
मेरे को
why,
बेहोश
but वो स्टार्टिंग में वो हंसा ना.
उसके बाद सीमेंट इंडस्ट्री वाला सीमेंट गिरा.
Honestly, I didn't know about that. This is new information for me.
Correct.
अरे कंट्रोल ही नहीं हो रहा.
हो सकता है, चलो कोई नहीं आगे.
Mostly working in modeling, and one of my top interests is traveling as well.
Which agency do you
ये
model
लोग
with?
आई थिंक सिर्फ तो मॉडलिंग बोल रंगा. लोग सोचेंगे कि
Okay,
छोड़
okay.
दिया केमिकल इंजीनियरिंग.
ठीक है यार.
रंगा को
नहीं यार, come on.
चलवा
That is
फैशन
actually true.
का
Okay,
है
okay,
ये
okay, okay.
चलवा.
सिर्फ मॉडलिंग बोला.
अरे वो तो
ठीक है
ठीक
यार.
है, बोल नहीं पा रहा वो है यार.
Non-technical people may actually think that modeling is something.
अबे रंगा
एंड
बोल रहा
लाइक
है.
टू ट्रैवल भी बोला.
तो रंगा को ना रंगा बोल रहा है कि मैं ट्रैवलिंग का शौक चढ़ा फिर बोलता है अपॉर्चुनिटी इन यूरोप टू ट्रैवल.
और मॉडलिंग
And
उसके बाद.
modeling.
And modeling.
क्या है, मैं मास्क
Modeling.
पहन के बैठू क्या यार, सच्ची में क्या बताऊं. नहीं कंट्रोल हो रहा है.
No,
It's a fun
I
show.
think it was
Yeah.
the Mihit's laughter is triggered by hello and everyone.
वो तो बाप से
Modeling.
इसी बहाने साइटेशन बढ़ जाएंगे रंगा के.
वही तो.
यूट्यूब चैनल आएगा फिर रंगा का.